Stress Midwest podcast. We are joined by Tom Shields of S.T.A. as well as with Beyond Pulse. Tom, how's it going, man?
It's good, Bri. Great to see you, mate. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking about asking you this question before we started recording, but I want to kind of get your natural reaction. Do you remember how we met? Because I was thinking about it, and all I could think of was convention, the year in Baltimore with Jairus.
But we met at the National Coaching Center. We met when you were.
There we go. You were there for your A?
Yeah, I was doing my A, and you were there all the time, it seemed like.
There we go. That sounds about right. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah. And then we reconvened at the convention, which is what all good coaching stories should do.
Yeah. A lot of them I don't remember from those 2 nights there, but whatever.
Hey, that's for a different podcast, mate.
Yeah, you're right. That's
a whole different podcast.
Convention. Let me leave that off. Well, Tom, look, let's kind of jump into things. Just give us first, me and the listeners, a little background about you. Where are you from? The accent does not sound like it's from New Jersey or the East Coast. How did you get involved in the game, and kind of what brought you over here to the States?
Yeah. I'm going to try do this quickly. I think it could go on a little bit. But in a nutshell, obviously originally from the northeast of England, a city called Hull, or Hull City for football fans. They're obviously my hometown team. So played as obviously a young boy at home, and then moved on to college, what is now Leeds Beckett University, where I studied sports coaching as an undergraduate degree, and then a master's in sports psychology as a postgraduate degree. Actually then taught on the coaching degree that I graduated off, all while obviously still trying to play a little bit, and then working in a variety of both boys and girls Centre of Excellence programs, Leeds United, Bradford City, Hull City. During that time, Challenger Sports, so the British soccer coaching company, the camp organization, I'd done 3 summers. So basically my summer vacations through school, I actually spent in the Northeast, all around New England, predominantly, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, but up and down the Northeast coast. Then once I'd finished my graduate degree and was looking for full-time work, I came out here, and at that time, Challenger had just partnered with Soccer Plus camps. So Tony DeChico was obviously a huge influence on my formative years, kind of full-time here in the US. So I was fortunate enough to work kind of firsthand with Tony for 2 years. And then from there, basically things have spiraled to, running various club programs. Obviously you mentioned now S.T.A. in New Jersey, where I'm the technical director. Collegiate involvement here in New Jersey with Rutgers on the men's side, in Connecticut with CCSU actually on the women's side. Now involved with US Club Soccer and the boys ID2 program. So I've been a national staff coach there this is my 5th year. So 10 straight kind of national camps with those guys. And then obviously little bits far less than I perhaps once did with United Soccer Coaches in a coach education role. Obviously you mentioned Beyond Pulse, which I guess we can kind of touch upon a little bit. And yeah, just basically a coaching junkie, mate. As you said, kind of have my A license, kind of went all the way through the US soccer pathway, the same on the United Soccer Coaches pathway. And obviously it's kind of nice to be on this side of a conversation versus hosting them from the other side. From the other side, which is maybe what people are more familiar with seeing me do. So yeah, there's a lot that's been skipped out, mate, but in a nutshell, that's kind of where we are.
You touched on a lot of points, a few that I want to circle back to. You talked about one really quickly, how you're on the other side of the podcast, and I want to give everyone just kind of a little background. He did an interview with Jesse Marsh for the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Those that are living under a rock, Jesse Marsh was He's born here in the States. Most recently had his job in the MLS with Red Bulls, New York Red Bulls, assistant coaching job in the Bundesliga, then gets the head coaching job for the Austria team, Salzburg. Yeah. And he does this halftime speech during their Champions League game that I think it's like every time I mention it, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Sure. And his German, it was perfect. Like I felt every word that he said, not knowing anything about German. And seeing that was a huge catalyst in getting me to learn Spanish. And teaching myself that, because when I saw him say that, this dude from New Jersey sounds like he's been in Germany for years. And it was chilling. Yeah, you mentioned your work with ID2. I'm pretty sure I've seen you here at the National
we did
there. Yes, I've been there a lot, and because you get to meet cool people like Tom, who then show you around because he's a big deal at convention every year. So one thing that was pretty cool is you mentioned you went to school for like sports coaching. That's something that is not that common here in the States. And I've just recently heard of a few people that are doing that now as their undergrad. How did you know, or what made you like, you know, I want to do the coaching aspect? Were you thinking long-term and like, this is what I eventually want to do, or what?
I'll be honest, mate. I was a failed footballer, right? Like most. And I think back to me at 14, 15, 16 years old in high school, and all I wanted to do was play football or be involved with PE. And while kind of learning and study has been something that I've now become incredibly fond of, back then, if it wasn't a football at my feet or playing on a field somewhere, I didn't really want to know. So I had really one choice, right? If I wasn't going to become a professional footballer, I had to find another way to stay involved in the game that I love. And the decision was coaching. Like, you know, it was something that seemed to come quite natural to me. In England, there's something called the Young Leaders Award, the Youth Leaders Award. I don't know, Young Leaders Award, something along like a really kind of formative entry level coaching kind of qualification that we had to do as part of doing PE at A level in college in England. And it was just something that I really enjoyed. And then Leeds, where I was, happened to be the UK Centre for Coaching Excellence. You know, my degree was the first of its kind, and it's now, you know, it's now kind of industry leading. And it just seemed like a perfect fit. You know, I think it was ahead of its time in terms of, you know, coaches appreciating the academic side of the game, or the academic side of our industry. You know, being students of learning, understanding learning theory, understanding skill acquisition, understanding, you know, motor skill like development, and
the psychology, all of that.
Well, psychology of it, and then coach behavior, and then coaching practice, and reflective processes. It's kind of it's language and terminology and phrases that might now be commonplace, but once upon a time weren't really. And I just thought, what a wonderful way to kind of give me a foundation to obviously grow within the industry, and keep me involved in doing what I love. And then obviously, like the master's degree, you know, one thing that I kind of struggled with a fair bit across a realm of sports that I played was, I guess, emotional control. Like, I get frustrated easily. You know, I think it's an interesting dynamic here where, you know, I speak about hating to lose more than loving to win, and kind of being, you know, maybe too competitive at times for my own good, but, you know, really wanting to try to better understand how, you know, in high pressure situations, people were able to produce optimal levels of performance, and obviously now, like, how to keep people motivated, and how to inspire learning, and how to develop, you know, resilience, grittiness. So, you know, the fact that Leeds met on Leeds Beckett, which was Leeds Met at the time, was, one of the UK's foremost institutions, and it's, it was my home. Like it made sense to absorb as much from that experience and opportunity as I possibly could. And as I kind of touched upon, we were lucky to have opportunities with the university's partner programs, whether it was Leeds United, what was Leeds United Ladies, Leeds Carnegie Ladies at the time in the Women's Super League, Yorkshire Cricket, Leeds Rugby Union. Like, we were immersed in and around professional programs and getting the chance to learn from elite coaches and have an opportunity to kind of get our feet wet within community or development center programs. All it did was just inspire this thirst to carry on. And I'm grateful now. One of my friends is a senior lecturer at Loughborough University, and I spoke to a cohort of his on another program that he teaches on the other day about the influence of kind of my academic journey on my practical journey. And so much of what I do now and how I coach on a daily basis is influenced by ideas that I was exposed to and developed during, my time within formal academia that otherwise I wouldn't have known about. Because I think here, coaching courses are now beginning to emphasize some of the stuff far more, but they really only skim the surface. So, without putting yourself in a position where you're intentionally going to explore that side of our craft, that side of our industry, I think there's a big gap. And I'm certainly very grateful for having the opportunity to explore it when I did, and now the experiences that can help me, I guess, better make light of the knowledge base that I developed. So,
are you a student that's struggling a little bit with the hybrid and virtual learning and looking to get just a little more help academically? Or are you a parent that has a child who's struggling to keep that same level of discipline and rigor that they had in the classroom at home? If any of these apply to you, check out No Stress Midwest Education, an academic tutoring service where we offer both in-person and virtual tutoring. One of the things that separates us from others is that all of our tutors are board certified educators in Kansas and Missouri in a variety of specialty topics and familiar with the latest curriculum in school districts around the metro area. We are passionate about helping students achieve their goals in the classroom and also committed to helping students build the necessary skills and tools they will need in the future to succeed on their own. Our team follows the latest guidelines from the CDC. We require masks for all in-person tutoring to protect both the student and the tutor. Our tutors will either travel to your home or meet at a predetermined location to conduct all in-person tutoring sessions. All we need is a space for learning, and we're ready to go. At No Stress Midwest, we truly believe in developing the well-rounded student athlete. No Stress Midwest does not tell you what to think, but teaches you how to think. No Stress Midwest Education, an academic tutoring service. For more information, visit www.nostressmidwest.com/education.
Well, yeah. Well, and you were touching on some things, and I'm currently in my B license. So the C was really big for me in the sense of first exposing me to a lot of the psychological part of the game and understanding that, at certain ages, what things that they're able to comprehend and what they're not, and natural behaviors, all of that stuff. So I was someone that was not a believer in the coaching license in the sense of if you played, you can coach, right? And all of that. But then when I went to the first coaching course and when I first decided to try to take this seriously, I was like, wow, just looking at the game from a completely different aspect. And here you are that have been, you immersed yourself in it from a collegiate standpoint and from a coaching standpoint. So you're kind of all in with that. So that's dope that you're able to pick up on that.
I think, Bri, it's a little bit cliche, but we speak about you only know what you know, mm-hmm. Right? So, and I think as you age up and as you level up, you realize that the breadth and depth of your knowledge, even if you are continuing to develop, is actually you realize how little you know, because I think coaches, modern coaches at least, have to be multidisciplinary. I'm not going to say experts, but we have to have a multidisciplinary understanding of so much more than just the X's and O's of football.
Yeah.
Like when you start to talk about performance psychology and coach behaviors and practice design, but then you look at performance analysis, and then you look at, you know, sports science stroke kind of physical or tactical periodization, or you look at, you know, rest, recovery, regeneration strategies. You try to understand stages and phases of learning and skill acquisition processes. That's not got anything to do with the technique of, you know, of playing football.
Yep.
Right? It's not got anything to do with the tactical nuance of, you know, sitting and defending in a low block, like, or triggers to press.
Yeah.
But, you know, and we touched upon Jesse, and, you know, he, without wanting to obviously steal his thunder, you know, he references all the time to me the importance of interpersonal relationships and building connections. And, you know, I think now you start to see coaches understand that, you know, we joke about coaches being thieves and stealing ideas, but fundamentally, you know, in a performance industry, we're dealing with people. And if we know what motivates and inspires people to be at, you know, to perform at their optimum, why wouldn't we go and do it?
Yep. 100%.
You know, and I do think I think you get, you know, like you said, you know, you've gone feet first in since you made the plunge into being a full-time, you know, and a professional coach. And I think the more that you spend time in and around people like you're doing now, right, and have conversations like this, you realize, yeah, that sounds interesting. That's exciting. I want to go learn about that. Or I see, you know, and I think the last kind of couple of years, and maybe lockdown specifically, where our profession has started to share more and give more, and podcasts and webinars are a real thing. You know, you start to get a better sense of what makes top people tick, and what they do, and what they know, and why they act in the way that they do, and how they are the way that they are. And it's very, very deliberate, and it's very, very intentional. And I think ultimately you look at it and say that if it's good enough for them and they're producing at level X, then maybe I should take a leaf out of their book and try and kind of explore and become curious and just enjoy the process of getting better. Like, I talk all the time, and anybody that's listened to me rabble on before will have heard me say, like, we as coaches ask our players to go and get better on a daily basis. But how many of us can honestly say that we do the same thing?
Yep.
Like, if we're meant to be the embodiment of the culture that we're looking to create, surely we've got to be the ones that are facilitating that type of, you know, professional, personal drive and ambition to develop and grow. And if we're not, then a question could be raised as to whether we're meeting our moral obligation to be the best version of ourselves for the kids that we coach.
Right. Well, and then it's like, well, you get a kid that goes off and gets better. Okay. And he comes back to you and you're still at the same level. Well, what are you going to do with the better kid?
Mate, absolutely. And it gets hard, right? Like,
right. Because then that kid is going to start to get over you, where he's like, all right, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm going to take over and do it.
Yeah. Like, and I think it's, you know, I was reading one of Dan Abraham's posts the other day, and there was a concept of, you know, again, connection comes up, but it's more than just, hey, like, look, I can invest in you as a person, and that can be a foundation for a great relationship, a great coach athlete relationship for us. But if I can't elevate your level of performance, if I can't find, you know, give you an extra 1%, 2%, 5% to correct, to, you know, to adjust, to adapt, to reinforce, to kind of take your game to a new level and teach you something that you did not previously know before, you know, coming under my tutelage, then my impact is going to always have a glass ceiling, right? And it's always going to be lower than somebody who knows enough about how to get the finite detail out of something that says, I'm going to elevate you from where you are to where you want to be, and I'm going to help you fulfill potential. And ultimately, like you said, you know, if you as a coach prevent yourself from being exposed to ideas and techniques and tools to help you do that, then you're never going to be again, you're never going to be the coach that your kids need you to be as they grow and age and level up.
Right. Well, and you know, you would hope that you're never going to be the coach that you want to be if you're not doing the stuff to get better.
For sure.
I mean, I can remember, and this is, I'm glad, Tom, you said it on recording, but I would go and ask Antal and all of those guys, Didier, if I can just sit in on the A course and just whatever courses I can listen to, and just be around people that see the game in a completely different way than I do, and just hearing the stuff that you all would say, where I'm just like, oh shit, like, man, this guy is, you know, he's on another level. And then when I saw that, I'm like, man, all right, I got to get there. I got to get to that point. I got to get to that point. So it's kind of like, you know, you become a junkie and just immerse yourself into it. So,
and
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Brian, I think that, you know, again, not to blow smoke, but it's been great seeing your leap into this, and, you know, obviously everything that you've got yourself involved with. But for me, especially, and I kind of like to speak to, if there's younger coaches listening, because I think it's something that gets lost, is, you know, having the humility to do exactly what you're referencing, like having the humility and the willingness and the aptitude to go and take advantage of as many opportunities as possible to learn and to watch and to listen and to grow, and to never lose sight of the fact that, you know, you really can't buy experience. Like, and you can't, you know, a conversation with a mentor or an opportunity to observe somebody who's 5, 10, 15, 20 years more experienced and has made mistakes that, you know, every young coach might make on their journey, but can identify them and maybe, you know, maybe you can accelerate your learning and development that little bit quicker because, you know, you've got somebody in your corner, like, or you're taking the opportunity to sample as many environments as you can and understand that, look, like, people in our industry they're always looking for what's next without really realizing whether they're ready for it and whether they're prepared enough. And I think, like, what you've done and what I would challenge, regardless of age and an environment, all coaches to do is, you know, to go and find people that can make them better and be humble enough to accept new ideas and you know, immerse yourself in conversations that challenge the way that you think, because I think the more people that do it, the more that you realize how, you know, coaches that are working at every level, there's something special about them, right? Yeah. Whether it's the way that they connect with players, whether it's the way that they provide feedback, whether it's their energy and enthusiasm in a session, you know, whether it's the timing and type of their interventions, whether it's, you know, how they address an individual, whether it's the specificity of the technical information that they present, whether it's, you know, how they set up prior to arrival session, whatever it might be. Like, there's stuff there that you can go and cling on to that you don't really get taught in formal courses. You know, go and find conversations, like, people to have conversations with, because, you know, all of us will sit there and say that there's stuff that we did wrong. And as me and you sit here today, my hope is that we are at this stage in our life, you know, we are the worst coach we will ever be, right? Because there's going to be something that we do, the next session on the grass, the next game that we coach, that makes us better if we reflect on it intentionally. But people that have got 20 years of experience, 40 years of experience, 2 years of experience to share with somebody who's just starting that journey, like, it's an immensely powerful tool that I think often gets lost here, where people are always looking for what's next without kind of trying to make sure that they're as ready and able to be the best version of themselves and capitalize on those opportunities when they do come around.
Well, and
sorry, was that
no, that was perfect, Tom, because that kind of transitions into the next thing I wanted to bring up. And for those that have been listening, you obviously know and have heard all the things that Tom is involved in and what he's been involved in. So you have quite the coaching background, quite the connections, I'm sure, right? You did a podcast with Jesse Marsh that I watched at home. Like, I mean, so I know that you know people. who has been, or who have been some of your key mentors, if you don't mind me asking, and how did you kind of go about making that connection? Was it a former coach? Was it someone you sought out? Was it someone that sought you out?
I think the honest answer, Bri, is it's all of the above, right? Like I've been very intentional in my coaching journey of taking opportunities to meet people, to watch, to listen, to network, to put myself in places where I'd have the opportunity to meet individuals, or you know, and never be afraid to reach out and ask, right? Like some people that I have what I would consider really fortuitous relationships with, and people at good levels of the game, the world game, you know, I may only have met once or a couple of occasions in person, and a couple of them never, right? Because the power of social media to connect, and the power of, you know, technology to stay connected now. I mean, you can have conversations, and look, the reality is, it's cliche, but you know, but your network is critically important in our industry. And you know, I do believe, I don't believe that it's what you know, it's who you know, because you've still got to know your stuff in order to maximize opportunities that might come your way as a result of people kind of supporting you and commending you and speaking on your behalf. So it would be unfair to kind of to identify singular people. That I think there's lots of different ones that have been incredibly influential in their own sphere of this
process,
this broader coach or practitioner, educator that kind of I'm becoming. But again, I think none of it is possible if you don't put yourself in situations where you're exposed to them, or you're exposed to others who might be helpful for your continued growth and development. Like, and the answer is always going to be no unless you ask, right? Like, so like I said, you know, a little earlier, I think our whole industry now is full of people that have been the novice, or have been the aspiring coach, or have been the first year collegiate coach, or the first year club coach, or the first year academy coach, and know what it's like to, you know, to have that nervousness, to have that aspiration to grow. And, you know, I think lots of us do what we do because we love to help. So, you know, young coaches, just reach out, like, and find, and because, and it's never been, for me, it's never been a conversation of, Brian, I really appreciate what you do, and I've always found you incredibly insightful. Will you please be my mentor? Like,
right, yeah.
It's not really been that. It's been the start of relationships where we're, you know, I'm asking questions, but then, you know, whether it's a quick text or a FaceTime or a Zoom or an in-person coffee and catch up, like every relationship has been different. And yeah, like I am incredibly fortunate, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't intentional as well. Like, you know.
Well, and you brought up, and I wrote that down. So I've been taking notes during this, so I'm not just texting in the middle of our conversation. But you said it, you've been very intentional in your coaching journey. And I think I want to draw attention to that, because that is so powerful with any journey, right? Whether it's coaching, whether it's architecture, whether it's engineering, whatever it is being intentional with the decisions you're making, with the positions you're putting yourself in, with the people you're talking to, with the people you're surrounding yourself around, with the information that you're learning. Have a purpose with it. Because I feel like a lot of the times, you know, if we're doing something we're not passionate about, we're just trying to do the bare minimum just to check the box to get through. But when you're into it, then it's, okay, what's my purpose? What do I want to get out of this? Okay, I'm here to obtain my A license. All right, what do I have to do to get my A license? I have to do this, and this. Okay, well, before I do this, I've got to do this. So then it's having a plan on trying to get to this one goal to achieve, which I think it's good. I see something else you want to add on to?
Yeah, no, I'm just, for me, mate, it's almost, it's always that level of inspiration that you get from people that are passionate and share your passion about what you do, right? Like I have conversations, and I think the thing that always resonates the most is how deeply we care about the players we work with, the industry that we're in, the game of football, or whatever sport it might be. Like I have friends that are not soccer coaches, but are equally as kind of passionate and motivated to impart change in their specific area of expertise. And I think that is I think that's the driver as well, because how can you not be inspired when you leave conversations that make you feel like, wow, like how can you not be inspired?
That's smarter. I learned something.
Yeah, like how can you not be inspired to go and get better, to go and grow, to go and be like, I'm going to try that, right? And get excited about it, because again, it goes back to what we said earlier. Like if you're not stretching your own boundaries, if you're not seeking out those little, I talk a lot in our environment, whether it's, with ID2, with S.T.A, about marginal gains and, the accumulation of those kind of 1% victories. And, if I'm listening to somebody and it's, that's a way that I might get to be that little bit better in this specific area. That's another way. I've not thought about that. I'm going to approach it that, like, it inspires you, right? Like, yeah. I think when we commit our lives to something, and to people and I talk about selflessness in coaching a lot of the time, right? Like I think coaching is a very selfless act. I think we are giving a lot of ourselves to a group of people or multiple groups of people. And obviously in my environment, S.T.A, we're in the Girls Academy, we're in the Boys ECNL, we travel the length and breadth of the country for national events and for tournaments, sometimes for games. We are investing an awful lot of who we are in a group of people, but equally, when I say the selfishness from that is the feeling that I get when I was going to say we're getting so much from that though. From that, right? Like when you're responsible for adding that, helping a child unlock his or her potential or go to the next level or get an opportunity, our kids, whether it's collegiate commitments, whether it's youth national team call-ups, whether it's progression to the New York Red Bulls, to the Philadelphia Union, whether it's the ID2 kids that are signing international, going internationally and overseas, like when there's a real pride and excitement and joy that I think I certainly take from that part of what I do. And I think when we're all in it for, not all in it for those reasons, but when we're passionate about giving, it's really impossible to, if you surround yourself by people that share a similar outlook, like it's only going to inspire you, and it's only going to kind of, in my mind at least, lead to more and better experiences for all. So I just think go and do it, man. Just everybody, go and find people, go and have these conversations, go and be okay being a coaching geek, go and love learning, right? Like go and buzz off it, go and be excited about what we get to do day in, day out. Like it's not, yes, it's a job, but is it really? Like and for me, I still say this to myself. I'm like, man, I am coaching. You got out of what was a real job. You got out of a grind. Yeah. You got out of a rat race. Right? And it feels awesome to say, like, my whole day is around soccer. It's coaching, it's meetings, it's a podcast. It's something that isn't being in an office every day and doing something that just because I was good at doing it, I did it. I'm like, man, now I'm so, as you mentioned, I'm so engulfed in just getting better and becoming a geek and helping people out, right? It's, people, if you don't follow Tom Shields, I'll let him give his Instagram name out and we'll tag it at the end. But every day, if you check his story, he's tagging one of his kids that's going off to do something, as he just mentioned,
committing to college, national team call up, all national, tournament team, whatever it is, goal of the freaking century, the S.T.A. kids, and watching them and knowing that now Tom's involved with them. That club is badass.
Are you ready to take your game to the next level? Trust the process and sign up for No Stress Midwest training today at www.nostressmidwest.com/training. No Stress Midwest primarily offers training for soccer players on the individual, group, and team settings of all ages and skill sets. Our training is customized for the player, and our goal in doing that is to continue to grow the love of the game, build a personal desire to want to develop, and create the chance and choice for the player to play at the next level. We have developed a unique solution here at No Stress Midwest Training, showing our clients that you can have fun while still getting better. By creating a unique training environment customized to the player, we feel that not only are we able to get the most out of the individual by creating a no-stress environment, but we are also teaching them fundamentals that they can carry off the field and apply in their everyday life. Visit our website at www.nostressmidwest.com/training and sign up for your first session today.
Badass. So knowing that Tom's over it, I know that they're in good hands. So Tom, look, we've got a couple minutes here. I want to break it down and ask you two questions.
Yep.
Twofold, okay? What's some business advice that you wish you would have received early on in your career? And I'll ask you this again, what advice would you give someone that's new to being an entrepreneur or being a young coach? And you've kind of given some advice throughout the podcast, so maybe you just want to double down on one of those things. But what's some advice you wish you would have received early on?
Mate. So I asked a mentor of mine a similar question the other week, and I'm gonna and I think his answer was so powerful that I'm gonna share his, because it relates a lot to some of what I've said. His was that if I could tell myself something 20 years ago, it would be to find the person that I most admire and spend as much time around them as I possibly could. So like a Mourinho with Bobby Robson, right? Mm-hmm. Like a Villas-Boas with Mourinho, arguably. Mm-hmm. Can you invest your time and effort in absorbing as much as you can from somebody in the industry that can help you grow, but may also be the opener of doors. Yeah. Right. So I said I was really fortunate to have Tony in my corner for a few years, and on the field and in the classroom and in his kitchen, right? Like as many different opportunities to absorb information from him, like hearing Jesse's perspective on life in the Champions League has become, coaching in different continents and, different parts of the world has become something that's immensely powerful for what maybe my life could look like in 5, 10, whatever many years from now.
Right.
So I think, it comes down to, again, the power of relationships and I think never underestimating the value of, the value of recommendations in this profession, and never underappreciating or underestimating how small the football world is. Like we haven't really spoken about Beyond Pulse when you asked me that, or you text me that question about advice and specifically from a business perspective, like the power of our friends in the game giving us a platform to grow a business was so immensely powerful and so deeply appreciated. but it's one that's born out of genuine connections, and it's one that's born out of genuine friendships and relationships, and not just, here is another, regardless of how beneficial the products and the technology could be, here is just another one in an immensely saturated market. You're buying the people, and honestly, it's the same thing I say at S.T.A. all the time. Like, the vision of who we are and what we want to achieve is only ever as good as the people that are on the field delivering it, and never lose sight of the impact that coaches can have on, a player's education experience, but also a parent's education and experience and desire to remain. Because look, again, it's a whole different podcast to touch upon the business side of the youth industry. But I have 35 staff that, some have mortgages that are determined by, dependent upon their continued employment, and their continued employment is determined by the levels of experience and education that their young players receive in our program. And if they don't like it, there's other options. So I think, never losing sight of, the importance of being the best version of yourself always. And I think, there's that conversation about, if you pass people on the way up, make sure that they still feel the same about you on the way down, right? Like, because you don't know how long it's going to last. And if you suddenly become somebody different, if you suddenly go from, and it's the one thing, it's not a Tony talk, but it's the one thing that I was just in awe of, was my very first convention in Kansas City in 2011, 12. You'd have to check the year. I forget which one it was. We couldn't move 10 yards without Tony finding somebody who wanted his attention, right? Naturally welcoming, like godfather of football in the US. And to everybody, he always had time. He would always say hello. He would always take the picture. He would always give something of himself to them. And he didn't need to. And for me, that was a perfect example of somebody who had done everything that he could ever wish to experience and achieve, but never forgot where he came from, and never forgot the people that were with him when he did it. So, I think, I think it's impossible for everybody to always have good things to say. That there might be decisions, there might be players that it doesn't work with for whatever reason. But I think nobody being able to question that you're trying to do the absolute best you can for every player and person in your care, I think is important. So there's a few, and it's a bit of a ramble, mate. I apologize, but
no, you're good, man. You're good. Well, and I've been text you this. So I was down in North Carolina in June, and I'm there with NCFC, and I'm there for their USL League 2 match, right? So we're walking out of the dressing room, heading to the field, and Will Steffen is the center ref. And we met because he was driving the Beyond Pulse across the country and stopped in Kansas City. And we chatted for a bit there, and then I see him in North Carolina, and I was just like, oh shoot, like,
it's a small world, my friend.
Yeah, it's very, very small.
Wow.
And I know, and I'm just kind of trying to make some relations, especially with this next guest. So I actually was, because I follow you, you were doing a podcast, I feel like with Beyond Pulse maybe, and you had Ellie on, Ellie Jean. And I was following her because I had one of her Penn State teammates as a podcast guest. So then I saw her on your podcast. Immediately sent her a message. Oh shoot, my boy Tom? Awesome. I'd like to get you on my podcast. And she was like, yeah, I'd love to.
She's brilliant. And she is somebody that I would never, ever, I could never speak highly enough of. Like, I think her journey for, not just young females in the game, young Americans in the game, the willingness to kind of go abroad and stretch and challenge yourself, and the maturity that she speaks about, or the maturity in which she speaks of her kind of time at Penn State, and when things, not just when things were going great, but when they were going difficult, but the insight into you know, what is an immensely competitive culture and the pressures of high performance. Like, she's wonderful, and she's a small town Connecticut girl, right? She's like,
so now, did you two know each other from the Northeast connection, or how did you two meet?
So yeah, so my first job in the US in Connecticut, Oakwood, the club that Ellie grew up at, was the town over from where I lived. So when I was starting my coaching journey, you know, there was this Ellie Jean that was in all the youth national team programs, and a couple of, obviously, what have now become really good friends coached her directly. And yeah, she's a great example of somebody that, you know, prior to the interview that I actually had with her, like we'd never met in person, you know, but I knew her story for what felt like 10 years. But again, it just goes back to people, right? And it goes back to people opening doors to others. And I think we're one degree of separation away from so many once we get to kind of the level that we're at right now.
Dude, I say that all the time, man.
Yeah.
I say that all the time.
But no, Ellie's a great one. And for people listening to this that don't know her or might be less familiar, go and listen and probably share it with your kids, because I'm sure she's going to be full of wonderful insight, especially after the latest adventures in Holland and the success that she's had there. So
yeah. Well, Tom, we're getting ready to wrap things up here. Any final words, any final thoughts, any final shout outs? Do you have any paid promotion from any of the businesses you're with that you've got to show?
No, like, look, you know, I think firstly, thanks, you know, I say this all the time, but, you know, thanks to you and kind of everybody that's in this space, trying to just continue a dialogue and open opportunities up for people to learn and engage in these types of conversations. You know, obviously I love it when I get to do them, and you know, I'm grateful for obviously this opportunity to reconnect and to chat. From a Beyond Pulse perspective, you know, we're actually launching a coach mentorship program in this fall. So, you know, I'm unsure of when this is going out, but I would say if people are interested there, follow along with Beyond Pulse on Twitter and Instagram to kind of gain insights and see how you can be involved. We've put together a pretty elite lineup of people that will be sharing their time and insight with us throughout, you know, various portions of that process. And obviously I'll be back on the opposite side with kind of a winter education series towards the back end of the fall and into the new year. So obviously, you know, please follow along there. And I guess if people are interested, you know, you kind of touched upon it earlier, Bri, but my Instagram handle for little bits of insight, if people want to see it, is Tom Shields Soccer. And then on Twitter, it's at Tom_Shields, but the O is a 0. But obviously anybody that follows you can quickly.
And I'll add that to the video when we put it out. And yeah.
But yeah, like, never, always, you know, always love to connect with people, always available for conversation and questions. And if there's any insight, support, guidance that I can share of benefit, I'm always happy to do so. So yeah, just chat. But thank you for the opportunity to jump on, mate, and great to catch up.
No problem. And for the people listening, Tom is really if you have any questions, he's a very personable guy. I mean, we met because I was probably bugging him, asking him questions about something at those coaching courses. And then the fact that we reconnected at convention. And I remember I knew I recognized him, but I was like, man, I can't put a location. But then going out with you and Jairus and just being able to feel like, dang, I've known Tom for years. And that was our second time, third time meeting. So no, people listening, Tom's a great person, a great connection to have. Beyond Pulse was something I was trying to get at our high school, but I was talking, I think, to your owner, Mark, that, NFHS is whatever. So anyways, we'll save that for another one. Tom, thank you for being on. I'll see you in Kansas City here in a couple months at convention. For the No Stress Midwest podcast listeners, thank you for chiming in for another episode, and we'll catch you later. Cheers.